Alrighty. Well, my name is Karma Lako. I'm 42 years old. Do I talk to you?
You can talk to me.
Yes, and
Okay.
always keep your site.
Okay. I'm Mia.
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. My name is Karma Lako, and I'm 42 years old. I actually was born in Oklahoma, and my dad was in the military, so we did a lot of traveling. Ended up in Turkey, and then back to Oklahoma, and then we moved to Florida, and that's really where I grew up. So it was in Tampa, Florida. It was a lot of fun. That's where I met my my ex. Oh, I don't want to say that. That's where I met my kid's dad.
Yeah.
And then we ended up moving back and forth from Houston to Texas, Houston, North Carolina, Houston, back again, and had multiple businesses in between, working from home, computer business, IT. We did printing, catering, owned a restaurant, so quite a bit of stuff. But now I'm actually a project manager in oil and gas here in Houston, and I've been there for 4 years as a coordinator, and recently just got promoted to project manager. So.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how have you liked being in that industry in oil and gas? How do you like your current field of work and your position?
I like it a lot. It was a big change from what I've done before. Owning daycares, restaurants, it's much more casual environment, and moving towards oil and gas is really a professional environment. So I was really career driven and wanted to have a career, and so that's been really good. I've enjoyed that a lot.
I'm going to rewind for us
Okay,
a little
thank you.
bit as and adjust that.
Sorry.
Talk to me about your upbringing. I know you said you moved around a lot because you were a military family. What were your interests? What did you think you were going to be when you grew up, when you were a little girl? Just give me a sense of what your upbringing was like.
Gotcha. I love animals. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a veterinarian. Loved horses. And then as I went a little further on, I really found passion in marine biology. And so I went to college, and I was trying to go to marine biology, and I thought, I'm really not going to make a lot of money as a marine biologist. So I transitioned to business, and because I really wanted to be a business professional, I tried accounting. Accounting was pretty crazy, and so I went to USF, University of South Florida, and transitioned to business. About my third year, I started having medical complications, and the doctors told me, okay, get off birth control because you may have problems. And so I did, but within a month, my first was born. Or he wasn't born, but he was conceived in the first month. So it was like, oh, well, now what do I do? And then it just kind of snowballed from there. All my first three were all 18 months apart. So it was like boom, boom, boom. And getting back into school was very difficult, very hard. I kept trying, and it just wasn't working out. So I did try a couple of careers, a little bit of customer service, a little bit of HR, all peppered in between. And I always loved the office environment. I really did. And entrepreneurship taught me a lot about leadership and working in chaotic environments, moving fast, but there's not a lot of money a lot of times when we were in business. So it was feast or famine many times. So yeah, as a kid, I grew up with 4 brothers. It was my mom and dad and my 4 brothers and I, so there were 7 of us, and we struggled quite a bit. We were a single income family. My father was in the military, and my parents did get divorced right as I was a preteen. And so that was a little difficult, seeing them go through that. But we all made it through, and our family was kind of split. 3 of the kids, 3 of us went with my mom, 2 went with my dad, but we were kind of stepbrothers, half brothers, and me. So 2 of each. And
A blended family.
yes, and it was great. And so we did really miss that. But then my mom was a single mom, and she struggled quite a bit. She was working all the time. It was me and my two little brothers, and then it was just me and one of my brothers as we all grew up, and one of my brothers was in an accident, serious accident, suffered a brain injury, and sadly, he's, that's really heartbreaking because he was so special and amazing. The class clown and everything, and it was I think his junior year, senior year, he was in the accident, and it just altered his life. So,
Did that change your outlook on anything, or the family's, disposition or outlook as well?
sadly, well, it kind of brought us together, in times like that. You do tend to come together, and I always wanted to bring him with me, but I had to worry about my kids because he didn't have inhibitions, so, but yeah, it's something I definitely wish I could do more with, but.
The one thing I know about you is you're a hard worker. Like you were saying that you
Yes.
tried in a lot of different fields, and you've worked in a lot of different fields, and you've given it your all. And so when you got pregnant, you obviously had to put school on pause
Yep,
to take care
I
of
did.
your child and then your children.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Were you ever able to return to education, or is that something
Yep, I tried several times, and things just kept happening. Finances, economical, I needed to work to help keep things together. I had to stay home with the kids a couple of times, like just as I was getting started or just as I'd start a career, I'd have another one, and it was like, here we go again, but I mean, they're all blessings, but I finally will be returning to school this fall. I'm really excited to finish that degree. Yeah, because that means a lot. That's been a privately held, I don't know the word. What is the word?
pursuit, passion,
Yeah,
dream?
yeah, dream. Yeah, it's been something I've been holding on to for a very long time.
Do you think it's ever held you back from pursuing a particular job or promotion?
Absolutely. Lack of a degree, when I've gone to look for jobs, a lot of them are asking for a degree. I have a large family. I need to make a certain amount of income, and a lot of times to get to that income, that rank of income that I needed to be at, in order to take care of my family, I need the education because they're requiring the degree. So I'm really happy to be returning finally and just, knocking that out. I'm actually working on getting a project management certification as well. So I let my job know about that, so they're excited. Applying for a couple of scholarships through Dress for Success to help make that a reality. They have a scholarship program, which I'm really excited. So we'll see if I get it.
I think you're a good candidate.
Thank
Let's
you.
talk about your career pursuit and everything. And you were an entrepreneur and working business with your husband for a while. Now you work for someone else in a great office environment. So how did that come about? Kind of give me the timeline there. Is it once the two of you separated, went your different ways, you found yourself looking for different employment? Kind of walk me through how you went from entrepreneurship and being in business for yourselves and juggling that and family
Yes.
to looking for, I guess, a regular full-time, more traditional 9 to 5.
Okay. One second.
Sure.
When me and my ex were splitting, I had been a stay-at-home mom for a number of years. I didn't have a wardrobe. I was basically, in catering. You work, you don't have, if you're lucky if you have a uniform. So I worked from home for a number of years, taking care of the kids. my skill set, my professional skill set wasn't there. My wardrobe wasn't there. I was really lacking. Gosh, what was that question again, Mia?
So did
Yeah.
you, how did you find Dress for Success?
How did I
Like,
find
how
Dress
did you find them? Were
Okay.
you looking for employment and were you directed there? Or did someone reference you there? Kind of explain to me
Definitely.
how
Okay.
you discovered Dress for Success and
Okay.
at what point and period you were in your professional and personal life.
Okay. When I separated, I had to start looking for work again to take care of me and the kids. So I went, I was referred to Dress for Success through a program that I was looking at, and I did not realize the impact it was going to have on my life. I was just looking for a little bit of help, maybe help with resumes and interview questions, how to get past that initial first interview. And they mentioned that they'd have clothes, which is perfect because I didn't have a wardrobe to get me started. And so I did. I went to Dress for Success. I was truly blown away by the ladies there. They took such good care of me. I hadn't had that type of attention or treatment, and it was amazing. It gave me a lot of confidence. Like, hey, I'm a person, and I'm a respectable person. So that really helped, and so I took the questions, I practiced, went over my resume, went to the interview. Even up to the moment I was in the interview, before in the car, I was like, practice, go in, and I nailed the interview. So that was really exciting to see that, wow, that went really, really, really well. And so I was so excited, went home, got a call back for the next day, and so Dress for Success says, hey, if you get a call back or you get a second interview, come back. We're gonna help you again. And so I was like, okay, yes, excited. And so I went back, and then I got suited again for a second suit and went back for the second interview and nailed it again. So I was really excited, really supercharged, and I went in with all hopes, all expectations, and did really well.
I would say so. You landed the job.
I
You
did.
got the prize.
I landed the job. It was great. It was so uplifting to know that I knew life was going to change for me and my family. Sometimes, I'm sorry, try to clean up. A job can be like a lifeline to a family. And it really meant so much and has changed our lives. And we haven't had to struggle near as hard as we did. Where I came from before, my previous situation, very often we'd be without electricity or without water. The water gets shut off. A lot of times I had to apply for social services in order to get help with food or even sometimes to pay the bills. And that happens sometimes when you're an entrepreneur. And gosh. But knowing that I had finally achieved got a job with a steady income, everything was going to be okay. I was going to be able to take care of the kids, and it's just been a rush ever since. We did so much building over the last few years, the last 3 years. Finally got cars, got finances in place. Should I stop and dry up a little bit?
You're fine. Take a tissue
Okay.
to this. Yeah.
This
to
side?
that side.
Okay. Oh,
And then
my
come back
goodness.
over
I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologize to us at all. You take your
No.
time too. If you need to pause for a second, you pause for a second. You know.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, you're doing just
yeah.
fine.
Feel free to
You know,
stop
you
me if you
can't,
need me
that's
to.
the thing about life, you know, it has its ups and its downs, its peaks and its valleys, right?
Yeah.
And when you're in
Yeah.
those valleys, I mean, that's an emotional time, and to come out of that is,
Uh-huh.
you know, it's so big and it's so happy, but there's a lot of emotion there. Yeah, there's a lot of emotion there. It's
There
natural.
really
If
is.
you sat here and you talked to us
Yeah.
about what you've been through and you didn't get emotional at all, I'd be a little concerned, quite frankly. I mean, that's just, you know, that's life, right?
Yeah.
And life isn't always a straight face and a smile.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't. So like I said, you take your time. If you need to pause for a second, you know, you pause for a second.
Yeah.
Did you feel, especially after, you know, having separated, because so many women find themselves in this situation. I know you had stayed at home with your children and everything.
Yeah.
Did you feel overwhelmed, defeated to a certain sense? Were you trying to figure out, how am I going to do this on my own? I don't know how much your former partner was contributing. You know, were you scared, quite frankly?
Absolutely. It was a terrifying situation, separating after 20 years, 22 years altogether, when things were final. It was someone I had grown up with since I was 17 years old. So, you know, it was a bit of dependent on each other. So learning to be independent and continue to build a life for the kids and myself, it was a lot. And I didn't recognize it at the time. And I was so busy just trying to make life happen and keep moving forward and stay positive that I really didn't have a moment to stop and think about, you know, it was just the drive to keep moving forward. And one of the things that I loved when I found Dress for Success was that there were ladies there that when I was ready to take those steps to progress, they were there to help walk with me. When I had questions, they were there to help me with the answers. And when I was striving to find the professional woman that I wanted to be in my career, in my newfound career, the ladies at Dress for Success, both the staff and the volunteers, yourself included, just provided such a natural, powerful, graceful, professional example for me to follow. And it was really great just being able to see people achieving what I wanted to achieve. Not only people that were achieving what I wanted to achieve, but people who would talk to me about how they got to where they are, that were interested in mentoring me and making sure that I got where I wanted to go. Like, that selfless act of teaching and giving back is so incredible. And for me, it's been life-changing. So.
I think you explained to us how it's
Yeah.
been life-changing. Talk to me about, since walking through the doors of Dress for Success,
Right.
How that's changed things for you, and what specific things maybe that happened there.
Okay.
You know, like if you were going to PWG meetings every week, or you
Right.
know, if you found something there.
At first, I really wanted to continue to go to the meetings so that I could get more clothes. One, I'm a girl. I like to shop a little. And I really did need to build a wardrobe. So the classes and knowing that I could earn the wardrobe kept me coming back. But it's what I learned in the classes that kept me going. And it was the community of ladies that I was becoming a part of and that cared about my journey and wanted to help me or hear about it, share stories, network with each other. Some of the PWG, one of the first ones that really struck me was they did a class on the Oz principle. And the Oz principle is basically about accountability. And you're not able to control the rest of the world, but you can control yourself, your actions, and your reaction to the rest of the world and what you choose to make of it. So that just took me from a victim role, coming out of a divorce after, 22 years of marriage, 5 kids, pulling it all on my own. It took me out of that victim role and showed me just, wait a minute, you've got goals, you can handle this, you can do this. That was really amazing. That was big. Several of the PWG meetings helped me with my professional skills. Writing, professional writing. They also had a financial boot camp program, which was incredible. And that once I had the new income, how do you manage it? Management of your finances is very key. It's good that you're coming out, you've got a job, but now what do you do? How do you make sure that you're wisely growing what you're bringing in and not just throwing it away? Because it'll disappear if you're not focusing it, telling it where to go. So I learned a lot in the financial aid boot camp. Initially, I had to go through bankruptcy at part of the divorce and was told at one point that I wouldn't be able to get a house until at least 7 years. And that was a dream I'd always held, was to get a house. Well, I'm happy to say that after 3 years, not 7, I'm able to get a house. And I attribute a lot of that to the financial planning that I got. The questions that were answered for me, the goals, the credit building information I received. I never would have expected that at Dress for Success when I first came. And that's been incredible. How to dress, how to present yourself, how to speak in front of crowds. I was lucky in that they asked me a few times to ambassador and speak in front of a group, and I was completely nervous. But I couldn't show it. And I really wanted to give back because Dress for Success had done so much for me. So I offered to speak a couple of times when I asked, and that was really good. That was another pivotal moment that took me and helped boost my confidence. Number 1, that someone would ask me, and number 2, to get up there and do it, to take that courage, take that step. So.
And you did it.
Those are a few
you did
things.
a great job. I know at the event that we hosted last year, wow, you were just very memorable in doing your presentation and your speech, and that's what you want. We want people to remember the impact and the great women who are part of the organization. So I know Dress for Success has also been there for you during some hardship. Like so many other Houstonians, you were flooded by Harvey, right?
Yes. Oh, goodness. Yeah, we were flooded by Harvey. We had done all this building, over the last 3 years. We built a home. We started actually having savings for a change. It wasn't a lot. I think initially I had $1,000 savings, and that was like, oh my gosh, I hit $1,000. Even 500 was a lot at the time. So I had 2 cars I was getting for my kids because they were turning of age. And Harvey hit. And it took us back to square one. We were in one of the hardest hit areas over at Clay Road and Barker Cypress over Addicts. And we lost pretty much everything, virtually everything. 2 cars, and we had to go in and rescue cats even. My neighbors had to go rescue cats. And just to see the neighborhood that the kids used to play up and down the street flooded in water, and we're canoeing, trying to rescue other people out of the neighborhood. It was wild. It was not pretty. It was hard, and it was so sad. Some of the saddest moments from Harvey were when we went back to the house for the first time, and my older son, and everything that we lost. We just walked in and we couldn't believe the devastation, how powerful the water was, that it had broken oak chairs to pieces. They just fell apart. Moved furniture from one room to another, and just the septic situation, when the septic's backed up and broke down and polluted everything, and pretty much everything wasn't salvageable. So that was hard, and I just sat there like, oh gosh, I have got to start all over again. And what kept me going was being there for my neighbors and friends. And we all just kind of came together, and that really helped. Dress for Success blew me away. I wasn't expecting anything. I got a call a few days, or maybe it was a week after or so. Dress for Success gave me a call and said, hey, we heard you flooded. We want to help. We have an event. Could you come? And so Dress for Success did come, or I did go, and I couldn't believe it. They had clothes, shoes. I had left my house with one bag, one set of clothes, one shoe, one pair of shoes. So for me, it was a total loss wardrobe-wise. And having to, even the small little amounts of funds, like, okay, now you've got to buy the underwear, you've got to buy the bras, the shoes, finding new shoes. That was my big thing, because you got to break them in. And so I spent like a couple of months in blisters trying to find new pairs of shoes and things that got handed down. But Dress for Success called me up. They said, hey, we want to help. We heard about your situation and we've done some things. And I could not believe the magnitude of what they did. I don't know where it all came from, but they held their, I forget the name of the event. Help for Harvey, or I can't remember, but
It was a Harvey
yeah.
Help, Harvey Relief.
Yeah. So we went in and we were gifted with several outfits, several pairs of shoes. We got toiletries that were donated, shampoo, toiletries, makeup. Gosh, they even gave us gift cards so that we could get some of the other things that we needed, food, the little things. I couldn't believe how fast they worked to turn around and help so many women that had gotten flooded. And when you walked in, it was this overwhelming feeling, the strength in everyone. Just kind of let us all know that it was going to be okay. None of us were alone. We're all in it together. And that was so powerful. And I think I did cry. Actually, I held it together. But when I left, I did cry. And it was tears of joy. Tears of joy that someone thought of us and stepped out to help in such a major way. It was incredible. And then after that, they also had a scholarship program that they offered several of the families that had, and we actually qualified for a few scholarships, and that actually helped me to get the house as well, and just a number of things. I couldn't imagine the difference that it made for us to help replace many clothes for the kids, a few things for their room, and it's just such an incredible. Dress for Success has been overwhelmingly positive in our lives and so helpful.
I'm gonna fix real quick.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
You're good.
I'm trying to dry up look a little less weepy.
Like
Trying
I
not to
said,
be weepy.
I think
Gosh.
you can't talk about these things. I mean, Harvey
Right.
is emotional for so many people, so I think to talk about it and not feel any emotion again,
Yeah.
it would be a little bit concerning. Tell me something. How do you think things would have played out or would have been different had you not gone to Dress for Success and gotten all of those different resources and the support that you found there? And I'm talking about from day one.
Right.
Had you never walked in that door, how do you think things would have played out?
If I had never walked into the door at Dress for Success, that first job, I may not have gotten. I really do attribute a lot of the and kept. Even if I did get the job, my company is in oil and gas. And as you know, recently we had a downturn and a lot of people suffered a layoff. In my department, we had 5 people at one time. And people were laid off left and right, left and right, and left and right. And I survived, I believe, like 5 layoffs. And I attribute that, one of my, KHOU, my boss, he actually attributed one time saying that he appreciated my professionalism that I brought to the job. And so that is one of the key things that kept me in the game, kept me earning a paycheck, was bringing that professionalism. And where I learned that professionalism was from Dress for Success. I always had a bit of my own, but there were so many things that I learned that I had no clue about. How to handle difficult situations at work, how to work with coworkers, how to communicate effectively. All of these pieces that I hadn't actually paid a lot of attention to made a big difference. And I was able to keep my job. And they laid off everyone down to me and one other girl. And it was the 2 of us that carried through for about the next year when they started to rehire and the economy picked back up and the oil and gas picked back up. But if I had never gone to Dress for Success, I would have probably gone into a different line of work. I wouldn't have pursued a professional career. I may have tried a management position. I may have gone back into the restaurant industry, which I was familiar with. And I don't, the path would have been completely different. It would have been a lot harder. I would have fumbled and stumbled quite a bit, not just trying to figure out where to go, what to do, how to do it. The fact that Dress for Success was there kept me focused, kept me learning. And education is so important. And since I wasn't in a position quite yet to go back to school, there wasn't a place where I was getting any education from. And Dress for Success provided me so much education. And on so many important career tips, even down to computer classes, Outlook, Excel, even this simple, even though I'd gone to college and I'd learned a few things, the pointers, the tips and tricks that they teach you, tax savings, legal literacy programs to teach me rights, medical rights, housing rights, to know where I stand, taxes, tax planning. The list goes on and on and on. And I never expected to find all of that in one place, not to mention the physical self as well. They hold fitness classes. Every year they do a 5K. And I was very fortunate to be able to try the 5K this year. And then I got the flu. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the 5K next year. So, and so health is an important part of it. They've also held haircutting class, or not classes, but drives where professional stylists will come out and they'll cut your hair, to help you. They're focused on the whole woman. Hair, body, mind, education, career, finance. It's incredible, all the touch points that they have. They have a dental workshop where, we all know how important a smile is. And so many times as moms, women, we're so focused on everybody else, we don't take care of ourselves like we should. So the fact that they held a dental clinic, it's like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm never gonna stop to do this, but here we go. And, and a smile's worth a million words and makes a good, important first impression. So having a good smile, it was just, I can't imagine the number of opportunities and community resources that they put together, that they bring together, is it's incredible.
To come full circle, I know
Yeah.
you had to, I always say it, but people say, oh, I got busy, things changed. Life happened for you when you were younger and you were in college and you had to put that on pause. To
Yeah.
come full circle, I mean, it sounds like Dress for Success has been your secondary education for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just for Success has been a secondary education for me because I did not have the finances to go back to school at the time. I didn't have the time. Just for Success, the schedule was very flexible. They had an evening and they had Saturdays. So even when I was working, and I even at one point was working 2 jobs, trying to get to where I needed to be financially. And the fact that they were flexible in their times with both days, both evenings, several different classes, different boot camps that they planned, I was able to continue to getting those tidbits of education. And the fact that they were condensed and focused, bullet pointed, if you will, I didn't have to sit through hours and hours and hours of class. I was able to go in, get information, get pointed information, focused information, and ask questions. There are so many questions. You can learn quite a bit. And in a classroom, when I went to school, you're in a classroom with 300 other people sometimes. Or you're in with a teacher's assistant and there's like 30 of you. It's been so wonderful, the speakers that Dress for Success has. They come in, they're interactive. You can ask as many questions, you can delve into it. They're very thorough, they're well spoken, their presentations are well put together. So you're able to learn so well in a condensed period of time. And that has kept me going as well. So, and growing, just, yeah.
But now I think for you, a personal achievement will come this fall or next year, I'm sorry, when you return to
Yes.
school. What are your plans there? Have you said, okay, I'm going to get the degree and I'm going to get the degree
Yes.
in this? Or are you just saying, okay, I'm going to start simple and start with this class? What's the plan
Yep.
there?
The plan is I am planning on going back for my degree. I had 3 years under my belt when I started having kids. I was pretty much 1 year away. So I'm anxious to go back, finish that year. I'm going to show my kids that it doesn't matter what happens in life, and it doesn't matter whether you think or you can. If you work hard, you're going to do it. You can do it, and you can have whatever you want. And so it's really important to me to show them that message and to lead by example. So I will be going back to finish my degree in business. There are so many wonderful classes that I'm looking at, so it's picking the one that I want. And then I'm also going to follow it up with a project manager certification to help me in my current position. And my job was really excited to hear that I was pursuing that. And I think when I told them that before I got the promotion, it kind of highlighted the fact that, hey, this girl's serious. I think she's in lieu of promotion. Let's keep her on that path. But learning to communicate that to my higher ups in the organization really helped me to move forward with the promotion, I believe. So
you have that one major accomplishment
Yes.
that you're going to return and do.
Yes.
Let's talk about you moving into another home and being able to relocate your family and furnish a home again and provide for them again. Tell me kind of your process about how you were able to find another home and kind of, pick back up the pieces on the home front after Harvey.
Oh gosh. Okay, picking up the pieces after Harvey has been a whirlwind. I did not know where to begin, to be honest. Where do you start? When I was starting all over, I was like, okay, I need absolutely everything, from the little toiletries to the first aid kit to all of the cleaning supplies. But first, I've got to have a home. And I went back and forth on whether to rent again or buy a house. I was planning on buying a house, but I wasn't quite ready for that jump yet. And then Harvey just kind of pole vaulted me into the situation and making that choice. And I know what I learned through Dress for Success when I was doing all of my financial planning. I learned that in my situation, it was important that I go ahead and I actually build an asset, that I actually get a home. And we had rented and traveled back and forth so much that the drive to really have a stable home for my kids was so important, so important. A place that they could always come home to. Being that they were about to move out of the house and graduate, I really wanted a place for them that they could know that they would always have a home. And they're excited about that too. You know, I think knowing that they always have some place to go to, that they're not going to have to worry, is a big deal. So I went back and forth.
So you leaked into homeownership then?
Huh?
You leaked into homeownership.
I
then.
did.
Yeah.
I did. I looked and looked and looked and looked, and it was quite a battle because there were quite a few investors in town that were, you know, houses were getting bought up. So many people had flooded. Finding a home was very difficult. Even renting initially didn't seem to be an option because everyone else had flooded. So it's just, and commutes were, any place that I looked, commutes were very, very long in order to get to my job or to get the kids back and forth to school. Our community kind of like scattered, you know, all of us in different places. So I longed to be part of a community again. That was a really important goal. Our kids, they grew up in that neighborhood over in Bear Creek. It's beautiful. Kids rode up and down. Families returned to that after they've all grown up. So it was really sad to see the disbursement. And we longed to be back into a community where the kids knew everyone on the block and they would go up and down, you know, working little jobs, little side jobs for everybody. They knew what houses to go. They'd run up and down the streets, ride their bike, go to the playground, and we missed all that. And I felt the roots that we had, we wanted again. We wanted to be part of a community. So we decided on a house, and we searched and searched for months on a house, and then we finally found this one, and we jumped in. So it was, and that pride knowing that we were able to get a house, that was amazing. And again, that was thanks to Dress for Success and the scholarships that we were awarded. I couldn't have done without it, you know? And, it would have taken me a lot longer to make that happen. And to furnish it little by little, there's so many things after you flooded and you lost everything. And I know a lot of people have been in our same situation, and you just don't realize all the things that you need.
Yeah, it really is starting from scratch.
Yes,
It really
yes.
is. Tell me about your children. How many you have, what age they are, what, sex they are. I know there's only one girl, but go ahead and tell me about that if you don't mind.
Yeah. I have 5 kids, 5 amazing kids. My oldest is 21. I have 4 boys, 1 girl. The oldest is 21 today. My second oldest is 19. Third is 17, going to be 18 next month in August. My girl is 13, and then my little man is 9. So they range from 21 to 9.
What kind of relationship do you have with your children?
Oh, a very loving one. We love each other. We're very family orientated. I don't know, they're my world. They are really my world. And they'll probably agree with that. So their support means so much. We're a very, very huggy family. We do a lot together. I've always lived near big family. I was part of a big family myself, growing up with 4 brothers. And the fact that I had 4 boys and 1 girl just kind of was really, really interesting, that turn of events. we spend a lot of time together. It's busy. It's busy. 5 kids is busy. They'll do gymnastics, they'll do film club. They did, at one time, they were all in sports together. So it was, basketball, soccer, football, it was one thing after another, swimming. And we were always really involved.
Well, I can tell they love
yeah.
you, the 2 that I've met here, and I know they're all proud of you, as they should be, because
Yeah.
you've really accomplished a lot. You're a strong woman, and you've done so well, and will continue to do well.
Thank you.
Well, Superstar, I think I've gotten everything I need. Well, hold on. From the audience. The team, we work as a team, because I was just about to turn around and ask them, what else do you think? Talk to me about the entrepreneurial years. Take me there through the ups and downs of those years.
Okay. Well, as a mom of 5 kids, had to find ways for a flexible schedule and a scholar and to kind of make things work. Me and my husband, at the time, we tried doing working split shifts. We were working jobs, normal jobs. So we worked, one of us would work days, one of us would work nights. We never saw each other. It was handing off the kids. And it got to a point after number 3 and then my daughter, number 4, that it was like, oh goodness, childcare and the split shifts is not going to work. We never saw each other. That can be tough on a marriage. And so rather than working the split shifts, one of us decided to stay home. And his mother-in-law, we moved here to Houston because she had a daycare center that she started. So we came to help with the daycare. And what better place to work when you have 4 kids, at the time it was 4, than a daycare center. So it really worked out beautifully. I was able to help. I got a taste of running the business from the ground up. We started with 28 kids and we finished at a capacity of 110, which was max capacity. We ended up selling that business, which was wonderful, but it was really my mother-in-law's business. So let's see here. And then we did a lot of catering back and forth. My ex was very much the entrepreneur. I was more the person that handled the finances, handled the paperwork, did a lot of the back, and just pretty much was a fill-in whenever needed. You need someone to run catering food to a place, we did that. You needed someone to color and print comic books, to adjust in Adobe Photoshop, we did that. IT was our best business, and we did quite a bit. And pretty much we're third-party contractors that pretty much did all the POS systems in Houston for like Dunkin' Donuts and Studio Movie Grill. But all through it, the reason why we went in so many different avenues. We even had a restaurant over in Cinco Ranch for about a year. And we were just coming up on our year, and the economy took a hit. And when the economy took a hit, we're like, okay, it's time to get out of business and sure enough, restaurants are not very, recession-proof. And when the recession hit, we got out, and sure enough, restaurant after restaurant after restaurant began failing. Because there are so many, and that's, So the up and down constantly when I was in business for ourselves.
Did that take a toll on your marriage?
It did. It was definitely one. At those times, we're trying to make things work with a business, had to get on social services, and that was really, really hard. And we actually flooded in Ike as well, in the same neighborhood. We moved away from the neighborhood after Ike. We lost 2 cars, 3/4 of everything that we owned. So even together, we ran into that problem. So we flooded, and it was the struggle afterwards, and we had our business, but the recession, the flood, everything knocked us down. And so we had to get out again. It was just this overwhelming cycle of it happening over and over again. And it was tough on the relationship. We had another kid. My Tristan is our Ike baby. I don't know if you guys have heard about that.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, no. Wink, wink, yes.
So yeah, he was our Ike baby, number 5, and oh gosh, just.
So what year did you divorce, and did that present its own set of financial hardships for you?
Absolutely. I think problems really began to surface around 2012. The divorce was actually, I think we officially separated probably around 2014. And then divorce was actually final in 2015. And then I went through bankruptcy in 2016. So it's been a tumultuous several years going through everything, all of the changes and oof. It's been quite a bit. Starting over, I started over again when we moved here to Houston. Started over again after Hurricane Ike. Started over again after divorce. And started over again in Harvey. I'm just going to keep on trucking. I'm just going to keep on going, being positive, moving forward, and just surrounding myself with people who want to help and are on the same path that I am. I want to continue to grow and network with people who are where I want to be. And so that's
You're on the right
that's
path.
the plan.
Keep
That's the
trucking, sister, 'cause
plan.
you're
Yeah.
on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, and I do eventually want to get back to entrepreneurship. So that's really exciting. And Dress for Success also is going to be hosting an entrepreneurship boot camp. And while I've learned a lot in my trials and travels as an entrepreneur in multiple businesses, there's always more you can learn. And not only that, but there's the wrong way, the trial way, which I've tried, and then the right way. So it's going to be really neat to see the ideas, the stories, and the successes that are going to be coming, or that are going to be coming in the future. I'm excited. So I definitely want to take. There's a lot of times I am a very heartfelt person, so I feel drawn to nonprofit. So I definitely would like to do something to give back to the community, help other people how I've been helped. And I think giving back and really focusing on other people, it really takes you away from the negative in your situation, and it really keeps you moving forward and being positive, and so I look forward to doing a lot of that.
You've got a great positive spirit. Time has escaped me here.
Okay.
Imagine that. Guys, anything else?
I've got
A couple. Dale, could I ask you this favor? Just because I've got to get back. We got
you
started.
do.
Yeah, we
Yes.
got started a little bit later, and with the
Sorry.
traffic and
Sure,
everything.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But you are more than welcome to say pussy. And more than capable.
Can't take this sitting down. I know it's
But oh my gosh!
So
I mean,
sorry.
you should be so proud of yourself and
I had problems doing
what to accomplish, And my thing is, it's like I told you, I really wanted you to share your story because there are so many other people. I always say that no matter who it is, everybody's been through something.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just don't know how much someone's been through.
Yeah.
And to see someone who looks like you or who has been through some of the similar circumstances, you can really give someone else hope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Thanks.
So I know it's a lot of your time and a lot of talking, but you were talking about circling back around and being able to help people. I mean, this right here, you have no idea. It just takes one person to see it and be like, oh my goodness.
That's amazing.
I'm going through this. So thank you.
Yeah, no
Thank you.
problem. Well, when I came, my childhood, I was in poverty with my mom, being a single mom. And there was so much of, it's almost a lot of times poverty can be cyclical.
Yes.
You can get stuck in that. And so one of the things that has just blown my mind seeing where I was, where I grew up. I grew up with a mom, 5 kids, same situation, divorced, single, struggling. And then I repeated that whole cycle. And I think about my kids and I think, okay, something has got to change. I'm actually one of the first generations to go to college. I was the first in my family to go to college. And while I got derailed, I get to go back. But changing that cycle of poverty for my kids and for my family, showing them, choosing a career path, finishing my education, it's going to be life-changing. They get to see that things are possible. My Christopher wants to go to school. He wants to go to college. He wants to go to, my Dylan wants to go to college as well. My Joseph, he wants to choose maybe like real estate or vocational, like he's still figuring things out, thinking about military. And the fact that they're growing along with me and they're being able to see that it's achievable. And if you want to go get it, if you want it, go get it.
And how you deal with adversity. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because life is going to bring
Yes.
adversity at
Yes.
some point, right?
Yes.
And it's how you deal with it versus what happens. So I
Yeah.
think that's the best part. And the best example that you give to them is how
Aw.
you dealt with adversity.
Pretty much when Harvey was hitting, the night before, my kids were with my ex. So I knew they had been home for a couple of days from school already. So I headed to the store to pick up some toys and munchies and to bring over, to entertain them while they've been home and they're bored and they can't go anywhere. Their dad was out working. I believe he was working. And so as I was in Target, all of a sudden the tornadoes started hitting. Of course, hurricanes come, they're going to be a week. Nobody ever expected us to flood the way that we did. So I prepared food. I even cleaned my fridge, and just prepping for everything. And so I was in the Target ready to get things for the kids, and tornado came by. And they're like, get away from the windows, and all the lights went out, everything. You hear the doom. And they're like, attention guests, stay away from the windows, stay away from the doors, the tornado is right here. And that was the first one. And then it went away, and then there was another one, and they just kept cycling. And so there were 2 tornadoes that passed while I was there. I had friends calling me saying, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm getting some things, and I'm gonna head over to my kids. And at the time, things were a little tense between me and my ex, so I was gonna go over there while he wasn't there, and then I was just gonna go home. But he ended up showing up on my way. I told the kids, hey, I'm on my way. And they're like, oh, Dad's home. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to head home and just keep everything there and wait. My friends kept telling me, come on, don't stay there. They'd heard me, with the tornadoes all around and the announcements online. So I was just like, they're like, come out. We're in the woodlands and we're not getting hit with anything, but we're going to have a hurricane party. They lured me with steak and wine. So I went home. I grabbed one night of clothes, and because I was going to be back the next day, and I was just going to weather the storm the one night up in the woodlands. And that night, the water came, and 45 near Intercontinental, everything flooded right there. And I was actually trapped away from my home and away from my kids. I wanted to go. They shut down the interstates. People were driving into water. It was dangerous. So I just wanted to get home. I had 3 cats in the house, and I needed to get my animals. I wanted to be near my kids, and I couldn't. My friends wouldn't let me go. The authorities, they started blocking off the roads. 45 Beltway, everything going down was blocked off. Emergency vehicles only. Around my job, which is right there in Greens Point, friends were sending me pictures, the street light up at the top, 20 feet, water, all the way up to the street light. So I was trapped. My neighbors were calling me. I was calling and checking on my neighbors. They were calling and checking on me. They knew I was away. My neighbors had a 2-story house, and they went over and rescued my cats from my house. as far as when it was really weird because the water, like, the rain stopped, and then the water started rising, and then the water went into the homes. And then we got the call saying, hey, they're going to release the dams. We're expected to flood. And that was the warning, and that is exactly what happened. So even though the rain had stopped, they released the dams. First, we were going to get a foot of water, then we were going to get, a couple of feet. And many of my neighbors got water all the way to the roofs of their houses. So my neighbors, a lot of them had to be rescued. And several of them tried leaving the neighborhood several times. Took them 3 times to get out of the neighborhood. It was pretty scary for everyone. These people have been in these houses for 40 years, never flooded, not once in the entire time. So it was really, really, really heartbreaking. Number one, people having to be rescued and having to leave everything behind. There was no notice. You couldn't pack up anything. Even before the flooding started getting really bad, I asked my ex to go to the house. I'm like, hey, there's pictures at the house. There's important paperwork. Can you run and get it? I'm stuck here. And there was a bit of back and forth there. And he eventually went over there with my boys and got some stuff out of the house. And then rushed back. And I was calling them every day because there was a threat that the other dam was going to bust if they didn't release it. They were on, Addicts was one side and Barker was the other. And so I can't remember which one was going to bust, but they had to keep releasing the water. So I was terrified every day, calling them, checking on them. Poor Christopher's birthday. He turned 17 during the middle of the hurricane, and it was very sad to be trapped away from everyone and worrying every moment. Don't worry, Mom, we've got the bathtubs filled. Don't worry, we have food in the house, that sort of thing. So the separation was killer. And then it was the whole aftermath when I was finally able to go back. I think I was stuck in the Woodlands for about a week. There was no way to get in and out of where I was. And when I did get back to see the devastation, we could not even get to our home. The neighborhood had flooded all around, and people were using the school, Bear Creek Elementary, as kind of a load-off for boats because everything had flooded right up to the school. And so they were offloading boats, canoes. Our neighborhood was such a strong knit community and neighborhood, neighbor helping neighbor, but it was even outside of our community. Everyone, all of city of Houston was amazing how everyone came together. It was incredible. I know my mechanic at Texas Best Auto helped a girl who had flooded, her car had flooded. She came here, she was here for a couple of months, knew no one, had nothing, had her car in an apartment, her apartment flooded and everything in it, her car to the roof. And he turned around and redid her whole car. And it was just incredible, story after story of people stepping in to help each other. Me and my neighbors, we couldn't get to our home, so we stopped to help. Me and my oldest son, Joe, geared up because the water is septic. We knew we were taking chances going anywhere near the water in the area. It just, everything, even the pictures, I can show you pictures of the flood, the caked on gunk on the wall. You can tell it was just horrible. So we came and we were helping neighbor. We were taking canoes down, rescuing our neighbors and their kids, towing them back in a canoe. And it was just, it was insane. And then afterwards, when the water receded, we were out of our house for 10 days. We couldn't even go into the house. The water was in the house for 3 days. It flooded 31 inches inside the house. It took 3 days to get out of the house. We kept monitoring it. And then it was 10 days before we could get into the house because it was still so surrounded by water. Initially, we had to go in and rescue our cats. Our cats, my neighbor had put in an upstairs bedroom with plenty of food, plenty of water, plenty of litter, and cats, they're so independent. So they were fine. They were just like, okay, I see how you are, just locking me up in a room and, keep me here for a few days. But yeah, they were perfectly fine when we got them. They did not like the trip home because they had to do it in a bucket on a boat, and they were not happy about that. But going through the water was terrifying because we knew it was septic even though we were on, but then there had been several electrocution deaths as well. So we stayed in the main part of the street. And we were told, because someone had actually died in our neighborhood, he stepped on a exposed wire underneath the water and fell and caught a pole, and just there was nothing that they could do. He was an Eagle Scout, amazing young man. And he was going back to rescue a cat as well. So we used a lot of caution. We were told that the electricity had been shut off to the neighborhood, to over like 10,000 houses in the area. So we were like, okay, phew. As we're out there, I'm on the boat, my son's in the water, we're going to go get the cats. The water's up to here on him, even though he's in the duck waders, all the way up to here. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting in the boat. He's around the back side of the house trying to get up to get the cats. And all of a sudden, I hear, and I'm like, uh-oh. That sounded like an air conditioner. So I'm trying to text my neighbors, like, is anyone running a generator over here? Like, I hear noise. I hear something going. And it turned out to be my air conditioning unit that was still 3 feet underwater kicked on. So that's when we realized the water was live. There was electricity in all the houses. And so I had my son come back. He was able to get them. I think the first trip we couldn't get them. The second trip we were able to get the cats. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. My son stayed and he helped neighbors get things in and out of the water from their houses, did whatever he could. I went and helped neighbors that had already dried off. We were pulling out drywall, packing up books, throwing things away. It was just sifting until we could get into our house. And when we got into our house...
Yeah, tell me about those initial emotions you felt when you were able to walk back into your house.
Shock. The initial shock. Number one, the smell. The smell was so intense. You walk in and I couldn't believe everything was coated in mud. Not water, mud. The beds covered in mud, vacuum cleaners knocked over, couches full of mold. Like I've never seen mold grow like I did. Patches of mold this big on the window sills everywhere. Like, because the humidity, I guess. I mean, it was, I couldn't believe, mold on couches like this wide, everywhere. Countertops, it was really gross. You couldn't touch anything. And the first thing is my son Christopher went in, and he went immediately for his things. He had tried to put everything on his bed. We never thought we were going to flood, and definitely not as much as we did. And so he had put everything on his bed to keep it safe and dry, and everything had gotten soaked. He had some of his first love's love letters, a box she made specifically for him. So many personal memories that they had. We lost a bunch of pictures. My little man had toys. They were all low because he's a little guy and he was low. His toys were all contaminated because the pumps had broken down and septic backed up into all the houses. So everything was septic. So I took a picture of my son as he was standing out on the curb looking at all of his things, and the look on his face was just like, and as he took his shirt and he just was drying his eyes a little bit, trying not to cry. And every time we went to go get something in the house, it was really helpful that we had friends and neighbors from community churches to come in and help, because as we went in, we'd pick up something that really meant a lot, or even if it's just like you capture one last memory before you gotta trash it. And it was like that over and over and over again. It was so hard to do. We just, we that's when you need a lot of help. At one point, I couldn't I had one of my friends helping, and she's like, do you want me to say this? You want me not? I'm like, you know what? You can't ask me anymore. Make your best decision. And what I end up with, I end up with. And if it's not salvageable, go ahead and let it go. Because it was so difficult for me to let it go, for them to let it go. It's just, and one after another, I watched my son, you know, just pick up his things, one last look before just that one last goodbye, and then just throwing it away. And so the neighbors, the community that helped was incredible. And I remember the stench and everything was so bad when they were lifting some of the beds out. I mean, they had to rush out of the house because, you know, throwing up, the smell was so horrible. So it was just, it was a total loss, you know, salvaged what we could. And I think I kept a lot of things that I shouldn't have, and I still haven't even gone through some of it. It's just away, because dealing with that memory is very traumatic. It's very hard to do, even now, months, almost a year away, and it still is hard.
Thank you for sharing that. I knew that would be difficult, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to get more of a sense of just that experience and what you've overcome since then. Let's go somewhere happier. So you were talking about how much you enjoy spending time with your kids. So what are the things you guys like to do together?
Oh gosh.
Some of those activities.
We like to make slime. Apparently slime is a big thing right now, so we'll go get a lot of glue, and slime is very fun, so we'll make slime. My son Christopher's really into acting and theater, so this was his senior year. I had a lot of fun. I would volunteer at the schools helping, and he got a chance to be in a play, so being a part of that, and they did a zombie run, and that was a lot of fun. My daughter is in gymnastics, so she does that. There's no limit to the things that we do. We go to the dog park, we go to the mall, we just wander around, we get goofy, we watch movies. We sit down and have dinner together. We'll catch a movie. So many things, Chris. What all do we do? It's just
doing some of those activities in a home that you own.
Oh my gosh. I tell you, when we first moved in, we didn't have a stove for like the first 2 weeks. And cooking, you know, we're an Italian family, so cooking has always been a big deal. Cooking and food has always been a big deal. And when we first moved in, they had actually moved the stove out, which I didn't expect. So I was like, oh my gosh, no. And the house initially didn't feel like a home until we had a stove. So it was the first 2 weeks, we got a stove. Kids could not wait to eat a real meal. My daughter loves to cook, so she's always doing, you know, she's always coming up with really cool things like mug cakes and frappuccinos. She does her own, all kinds of things. She likes to. I love that about my kids, that they see something and they want to create something new with it. So I will get them all kinds of crafts, or I love to see them having new experiences or trying new things, not just playing video games, which they are addicted. I mean, what kid isn't nowadays? But I really love encouraging their excitement for trying something new. So anytime they want to do something new, we just jump on board and we're go do it. My son wanted to do drones at one point, so he's getting to be a pretty good flyer. And
so what do you do for fun, or to nourish or lead by example from that creative side?
oh gosh, would you believe that I spent the last 20 years really being a wife and a mom? And I fell into that category. Well, I did not pay attention to myself, hardly at all. Like, I pretty much disappeared. Everything that I did was for my family. So I guess I put a lot of me into that. cooking and housemaking, and I homeschooled my daughter for a year, her second grade year, because she was having a really hard time in school, with school. A very smart young lady. And they wanted her for the gifted program, and she was just struggling with the school environment. So I brought her home for a year, and we homeschooled her, and that was so much fun. I'm a big science buff, really focused heavy on literacy and literature. So we had, I created the curriculum, and it really focused on reading, a lot of reading. It really helps with comprehension. It helps with a lot. So pretty much created a curriculum for her, kept her on path. She was able to get back in third grade, and she's been happy ever since in school, as much as a kid can be happy in school. But she does. And I really kind of lost myself a little bit for a while. So not necessarily lost, but I was so focused and I didn't have me time. So now I'm actually stepping out for the first time, finding things that I'm interested in. So I'm always interested in a new experience. Rock climbing was a lot of fun. I tried that. Playing volleyball. I had so much playing volleyball. I don't think I smiled and laughed that hard since I was like in high school, and it was just playing volleyball. So getting physical is really important. But really, I'm still on the journey to find what I like. I've been so focused now on career and really building our life and establishing security for me and the kids. And so that whole play period, I haven't quite gotten a lot to yet, but little bits here and there. And so, yeah, I'm just going to continue doing that. Maybe one day I'll make my way back to marine biology, because that was always a lot of fun. I love science. I've been to a few talks over at Rice University when they have their science talks or space talks. It's really, really interesting.
So you are a science geek. Huh?
Yeah, a little. But I like it.
And so where did that love come from?
Oh gosh, I think as a child I was always really curious, inquisitive, and even when I was a little girl, my parents would always get me science kit. I'd had a microscope kit, so I got to first see the first cells I'd ever, whole dissecting kit, which I didn't really do anything with the dissecting. I just played with the rest of this stuff, to an electronics set where I learned about wiring. All of that, and maybe that's why I'm so ready to help my kids anytime they find an interest in something, because you can learn so much when you're interested in something. And I just think I had a natural curiosity for things and the way things worked. I grew up playing in the dirt. So I had 5 brothers, and we were all a little rowdy at times. So my parents were like, okay, outside, go figure it out outside. So I got to play a lot outside. That made a lot of difference too. You figure out how things work, and I don't know.
And how does your family feel about just the mountains you've climbed? What has their feedback been to you?
My mom is completely amazed. Like, she's like, I don't know how you've gone through so much. You've gone through way more than I ever have, and you just always come out smiling. So she's always amazed by that. My kids, oh my gosh. I've talked to my son Christopher a couple times, and he'll turn around and say, "Am I Joseph?" A couple of my boys, and they're like, "I'm so proud of you, Mom. You're doing it." And to hear those words and a little bit of that admiration from them is just, oh my gosh, that's so powerful. It keeps me going. They really did keep me going through a lot of the hard times, because I couldn't give up. That's not an option, because they needed me, So that, a lot of times, that's really what kept me going. So, yeah, and it was really, just when they say they're proud, or, they give me hugs constantly, tell me how much they love me, and we're very big on hugs, and so it's just the hugs and the love and the way that we express our love for each other. I'm so glad that that's what they grew up with, that they had an opportunity to grow up with that much love and care and attention and affection. Ugh, that's good. That's the good stuff.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
I think we're good, guys. Thank you so
Okay.
much for the additional time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
so
so
good.
sorry.